mindset. Faculty members has to shift their paradigms and has to embrace this technology. Another challenge is, are they ready for this change? Are traditional educators ready for this change? That was the question of the TUA administration. And you know what? The answer was a resounding yes. Maybe because TUA has been transparent from the very beginning. And maybe the teachers have this realization that they have this responsibility. And what is this responsibility? To nurture their students, to care for them and encourage their growth and development amidst this pandemic crisis. I think that was the greatest realization. I have so many questions, but to give you some of my questions, the first one is, where do we go from here? The next question is, what are the expectations from us as educators? What is the future of e-learning in the Philippines? Education 0.0. As professors, do we move backward or do we move forward? It's actually for you to answer. But I think all HEIs, including Trinity University of Asia, must take on the challenge of embracing this digital, modular, and remote learning. Because why? It's here to stay, even after this pandemic. The FLO may change, but the LMS would be embedded in each one of us. Number two, we should embrace it. Embrace the learning management system and treat it as our own baby. And we must grow with it. Grow and develop with it. And attain the required competence for us to use this technology to teach our students, number one, efficiently and effectively. And lastly, we have to be more patient. Patient in terms of navigating. Because why? The initial encounter, our initial encounter with LMS is really a roller coaster ride. But I tell you, after we get the hang of it, our teaching duties would be as enjoyable as we impart meaningful learning. As educators, I would like to encourage each one of us to have an end in mind. And what is the end in mind? To provide quality nursing education to all our students. Let's face it, it's not about us this time. It is about them, our students, the reason why we are here. Let me finish this presentation with two quotes. If we teach today as we are taught yesterday, we rob our children of tomorrow. Technology will never replace great teachers, but in the hands of great teachers, it will be transformational. Thank you very much for your attention. Let's all have one heart, one goal, and one vision for our beloved nursing education. Mabuhay ang ADPCN, mabuhay po tayong lahat. Salamat po at magandang tanghali po.
So thank you so much, Dr. Jan Rena. You really made an impact on some nursing educators, and that's what they were looking for in this webinar. So for the Q&A, may I turn over the floor to Dean Edna, please.
Yes, thank you, Dean Cora. We can have the privilege of maybe one or two questions due to time limitation. There is a Q&A chat box on the lower portion on the right side, and there are questions there. This is going to be thrown maybe for Dr. Daisy Palumpon, and if there are others who would like to answer the questions also. The clamor of the participants is that, are we going to still follow the student?
Provide one case scenario per student in one group of RLE student, which is around 10 students. So that would really be, that needs tandem teaching or team effort to work on one module alone for a particular concept or RLE exposure. So in terms of the standards, I'm not very privy because we still follow, in our university, we still follow the CMO, but I've heard last webinar session 1 that there's a possibility of making it from 1 to 10 to 1:15. But in terms of policy direction, I cannot answer in behalf of that. This is just for purposes of doing the implementation in the institutional level. So that again needs to be reviewed. Your directive, your mandate within the university or the college where you are in will determine whether you will go for increasing the number of students per RLE group to be supervised by one CI or retaining the minimum standard provided for by the Commission on Higher Education.
Thank you, Ma'am Daisy. Maybe Dean Lacanaria will clarify further. But Dean Lacanaria, to add to that, the question on RLE, we're looking into another concern are the hours of the RLEs. Like question like, are we going to use all the hours of the RLE in this online activity in RLE, or are we going to do a catch-up plan? Because their concern is how can we evaluate the actual performance of skills like injection, bed making, and so forth and so on. Dean Lacanaya, can you shed light on this?
And, there are a lot of issues raised there. But first, I'd like to answer the first question, whether we really have to consume the exact RLE hours for each of the courses. Well, CHED says through its CHED advisory that learning can be flexible and that the focus is actually on the attainment of the learning outcome. If the learning packets and the modules are carefully developed and implemented, and that the learning activities and the evaluation tools or activities are really aligned to assessing the attainment of the learning outcome, that would suffice. And therefore, it becomes an institutional decision how they will schedule the courses, especially for the RLE. But if I may share our example, our experience at St. Louis University, we allot official class time for every lecture and RLE class based on the actual hours distributed across the 18 weeks, lalo na sa mga RLE na 6 units or 4 units or 5 units. So more or less, we're allotting for the 6 units RLE, that's equivalent to 306 hours. We are allotting 17 hours per week for the 18 weeks so that we can have 306 hours. But we are not forcing the student and the teacher to be online 17 hours a week as scheduled. Instead, this will be the time assigned for the students to work on their learning activities, to read their modules, and also a time where they can communicate with the teachers if they have clarifications, if they have questions, if they need more reinforcement. And therefore, the teacher should be available within this time frame. And also for some synchronous type of discussions as appropriate and as decided on with the students. Because some of the complaints of the students is they keep on emailing and contacting the faculty, but the faculty is not responding. This time, the faculty is forced to be available on the scheduled time, but she does not have to be there, and the students does not have to be there 17 hours a week. But this is the specific time when they should be communicating with each other. So they set a particular time. So kunyari 2 hours. So from this time to this time on the special time, we should be communicating. This is the time the teacher gives feedback on the learning activities, clarifies the questions, says hello to the students, how are you, what are your difficulties, including the students with low connectivity, who can be conducted through messenger group, through text, or through calls. Kasi meron namang mga libre na text online like chika.com and a lot more. So it will not be very burdensome for the students also. So the direct answer there is as long as the learning outcomes are
problems, what would you guidance or what you suggest our faculty can do to maintain humanizing humaneness in our teaching? Ma'am Betty?
Okay. First, this teaching learning process, the way you're doing it, is indeed very, very important, because that's the very reason for students to come to a College of Nursing. Second, there is a faculty advisor, isn't it? So what is the role of the faculty advisor? Where that connectedness and relationship can be nurtured. That's very, very important. Third, what is your student personnel program in your university or college, or guidance counselor program? So it is a school environment that needs to be supportive of student population. Fourth, are you very clear about just exactly what psychosocial services you are capable as classroom faculty to be able to incorporate? Because this is an integration of mental health and psychosocial services. What is the level? What is the extent? What is the readiness of the faculty? You cannot say overburden. No, that is essential. And that is the role of the faculty to integrate. What is that? What is that? And of course, if it is depression, suicidal, I never discount the importance of having a medical consult, because I do not take depression for granted, never, because there is always the possibility of suicide. It is there where collaboration comes.
Yes, so dear faculty, call for help, call a friend. If you cannot handle it, call Ma'am Betty Merritt. If you cannot handle it. Yes, there are, thank you, Honorable Betty Merritt. There are also questions, a lot of questions about evaluation on the RLE, maybe because we are stressed now that it is in our hands, designing, developing an online learning packet for RLE. Friends, we have that very much, that session particularly on evaluation of our online learning, offline learning on session 4. So please connect with us again. Session 3 will be about LMS and session 4 will be about evaluation of all this learning that we are talking about. So please be with us. I'm now turning over to Dean Cora Gasco.